Welcome to Beth's Happy Home. Today I'm making a chicken gumbo soup, which is a hearty, vegetable-packed dish that harkens back to the Old South, although the Southerners will argue that it's completely Southern, but because I've hacked off some of the calories that they ordinarily would use. I've already browned my ground turkey sausage. Now this is the same recipe that I was demonstrating in that 4 recipe comparison for sausage. This is the number 2 recipe, so it's got both the sage and the fennel in it. And it's kind of important to make sure that your sausage is a very flavorful sausage because it really is important in flavoring the dish. But this is already browned, and this was 1 pound of ground sausage. I'm just going to go ahead and put that into my soup pot. I've chopped the chicken into about 1/2 inch cubes, and I'm going to brown it too, just to give it a little bit perkier flavor. So we'll start that over here with a dash of olive oil or any kind of mild flavored oil, and I'll just scoot that right in there. Okay, I'm also going to do a little bit of a cheat on this one because I'm in a hurry. We're going to pick up my mother-in-law and bring her over for lunch in we're going to leave in about a half an hour, so I need to get it done before we go. This is 3 cups of water, and I'm going to pre-cook the rice, which I ordinarily just add the brown rice in with the rest of the soup and simmer it for a while, but it takes a long time in this recipe. It takes at least 1.5 hours to get it to cook, and so I'm going to pre-cook it. I don't have 1.5 hours today. So there's a cup of brown rice, and here's 1/2 cup, and just sink that a little bit. Give the rice a dash of salt. And I'm going to put this in the hot pot, get it going. This isn't hot pot brand, this is a Rose Wheel brand, but any kind of an electric pressure cooker will work great. For cooking brown rice in an electric pressure cooker, you cook it on the multi-grain recipe or on high for 16 minutes, and that's going to work. That's going to be perfect brown rice. Okay. So the next thing that goes into your gumbo, your chicken gumbo, has to be, of course, what the Southerners call the Holy Trinity: pepper, celery, and onion. I'm going to put 1 red pepper. You can use a green bell pepper. You could even use something like an Anaheim chili that's going to be a little bit spicier, but I know that my mother-in-law is not fond of spicy foods anymore, and so this red pepper is going to be just perfect. 1 large red pepper. I have this is coarsely chopped, so it's going to follow the other half into the pot. Just a little word that I think is kind of fun. I'm always trying to grow things from my kitchen scraps. You'd be amazed at how much success I've had, but this is a ripe pepper, and all of these seeds are likely to be viable. I have raised plants from peppers that I bought at the store, and so I'm going to save those and just put them in the ground, see what they do. After I will refrigerate them and dry them out well too. So I have 1 large red pepper. Now I'm going to chop these 2 large, very large onions. These are each almost 1 pound, I would think, and toss them in there. I'm going to make them a little bit finer than the peppers though. They're really quite unique to Southern cooking, and so it's really fun to make something that has some unusual ingredients in it, I think, especially when it turns out to be such a tasty and, in this case, very healthful recipe. Alright, so there's half. This is going to end up being about 4 cups of chopped onion if you happen to be having the luxury of using pre-chopped onion, or if you prep your vegetables at the beginning of the week, you want about 4 cups of onions. Of course, this is going to make at least 12 servings, so this is a really, really big recipe. We're going to be eating this for a few days. Okay, this onion is all chopped. It was a funny thing, we were visiting my son in Louisiana recently, and he likes to cook, and so does his wife. His wife has a degree in nutrition. If you've watched his video about fixing picky eaters, you know that. And he did not want me to prep the vegetables for a Thai curry that he was making because he said that they had to be chopped just right, and most people chop them too fine. So if you have a strong preference, do it the way you like, but I usually chop these pretty coarsely. Now I'm going to do 5 smaller stalks of celery, and I'm going to give them a quick rinse. Speaking of growing things from the garden, this little root right here, if you soak it in water, just that much, if you soak it in water, roots will spring out of this base, and then pretty soon you'll have a green leaf growing out of the top of it. And I put it in the dirt once it had some green leaves on it, and it did great. It grew into a regular little bush that went to seed right away. But celery seed is also something that's good to have in your spice cupboard, and it is used as a preservative in things like jerky and sausage. So it has preservative qualities, and that was just kind of a fun way. This chicken, it was a fun way to have a double harvest. So this chicken is brown. It can go in there with the other. And I'll put the rest of the celery in there. So we've got those 3 critical ingredients, but for gumbo, for chicken gumbo soup, there are a couple more ingredients. That's what the pot's looking like. So it's almost more of a stew than a soup, but you can thin it down to your own taste. This is a quart of herbed tomatoes, and these were homegrown tomatoes that I blended up in the blender, and so they're quite runny. I didn't cook them down at all. I put them in here raw, and skins and all. In fact, I didn't even core them, and they go in there. If you don't have a quart of home canned tomatoes, then use 2 15-ounce cans of chopped stewed tomatoes. It doesn't matter if it has the celery in it or not. Now, this is a departure from the usual recipe, but asparagus is in season right now, and I love asparagus. So I am going to add asparagus to this soup, even though it really isn't part of the recipe. But I bought a whole bunch of this, and I want to use it before it starts to wilt beyond use. So that's just an extra. The important ingredient that makes it unique, makes this recipe unique, is okra. Now, that's what it looks like. It comes frozen. I rarely see it fresh. This is what it looks like in the package. And you'll see that it's kind of slimy, and that is the way okra is. That's what it's famous for. It has these little white seeds that have kind of a pleasant texture. You can see how it kind of is stringing off of the okra itself. But that acts as a wonderful thickener for this soup or stew. And so you put a whole package, this is a 12-ounce package of okra. You put it in there. That is a very, very southern element of this dish. And in the South and even in other parts of the country, you can sometimes find the fried okra. It's been breaded and then deep fried. But it's actually quite tasty, and it has just a little bit of spice to it. So it will add just a tiny bit of heat. Now this is a generous tablespoon of soup base, chicken soup base. This is my favorite one, better than bouillon. So, and you can see there's not a lot of room for liquid in there, but I'm going to add a little bit of extra granulated garlic. You could add fresh minced garlic if you wanted to, and that isn't really a little bit. That's probably almost 2 teaspoons. But it'll hold up to quite a bit of added garlic. And then I'm just going to fill it up with water and stir it real well so that that soup base gets dissolved. Okay, there's 4 cups of water, and I think it will hold up to 4 cups more. Looking at it, I think I'm better off to just add 2 more cups of water because I don't want it spilling over. And I'll give it a stir with my knife that happens to be handy. And that sausage has all the complex seasonings in it. Just a nod to honesty. You would not use ground sausage in this kind of a recipe. You would use one of those tube sausages like an andouille. Usually that's what it would call for. But I have loved using the turkey sausage in place of the pork sausages that have the full fat because you get the flavor. The main thing that's adding flavor are all the seasonings and the spices that go into it. And so you're going to get that full flavor without all those extra calories, and it's going to be a very low calorie dish when all is said and done. Now I'm going to put it on the stove to simmer, and I'll leave it for about a half an hour since I'm cooking the rice elsewhere. And it will cook all those vegetables and be a very complex, very flavorful soup in time for my company. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, so now the gumbo has cooked down, the rice is completely cooked, and I'm going to stir this in to the soup / stew and just give it a quick mix and it'll be ready to serve. It smells delicious. I think it's going to be wonderful. So I'll serve it up like this. You can see the okra is all tender, and there's it's just slightly thick. It thickens a little more if you cook the rice in with the soup at the same time, but as it is, because the water is added over here separately, and then I added the water to this, it didn't thicken quite as much as it would if you did it that way. This is a much quicker method, cooking the rice in advance, because you only have to cook it until the vegetables are tender. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the chicken gumbo. Thanks for watching.